Johannesburg's Emergency Management Service has urged people to be careful when using fires, candles or kerosene stoves. This as load shedding continues across the country in the middle of a bitterly cold winter season, resulting in the use of equipment that may present a fire hazard. EMS spokesperson Mr. Robert Mulaudzi joins us now to talk more about this. Mr. Mulaudzi, good to have you with us tonight on News at Prime. If you could take us through some of the emergency services that you, as the Johannesburg EMS, has had to respond to, what you are coming into contact with, specifically during this time. It's cold, it's winter, but also we've also been experiencing quite a lot of load shedding.
Yes, good evening and evening time and evening to the viewers out there. Yes, during this time of the year, winter season, we normally respond to a number of fire incidents, especially in our informal settlements, due to the fact that our residents in areas are using heating devices like paraffin stoves, candles, imbawula or a brazier. So those kind of items, they actually make them vulnerable to fire incidents. Hence, we normally find an increase in terms of the number of fire incidents which we respond to because of the temperatures are extremely low. It's extremely cold, so those residents, they will be vulnerable to fire incidents due to the heating devices they are using. But now, since we have got a load shedding, we're finding it that the fire incidents we are responding to now, they are not only in our informal settlements, but even in our suburban area or our formal residential areas, we have seen an increase in terms of the number of incidents because of the load shedding, because most of those residents now are forced to use other heating devices, things like candles, which most of them, they are not used, they are not familiar in terms of how, they don't even maybe know how to use it safely. So we're seeing a number of incidents which are occurring in our formal residential areas due to unsafe use of these heating devices.
And Mr. Mulaudzi, because of the circumstances that South Africans are finding themselves in, as you're saying, they are resorting to other means of generating heat in their households. What are the safety precautions that should be taken, given the fact that South Africans will continue using candles, they'll continue using paraffin, etc.?
Yes, with our residents in our informal settlements, our message is very clear. We're advising them to firstly buy, these heating devices from a reputable hardware stores, because we've seen an increase in terms of the number of items which are bought on the street, like, for instance, paraffin stoves. These paraffin stoves are, most of them, not regulated by the national regulator of compulsory specifications, who normally test the safe use of these paraffin stoves. So most of them, they explode while they are in use. So our message is that they need to buy these stoves from a reputable dealer, stores. They will see how are they going to identify this kind of stove. They will see on it, it will have safety features on it. If in case of an emergency, most of those stoves will have safety features on them, which normally cuts off the flame, and then you're not going to have a fire incident at home. There's a second item which they're using, which is a candle. Most of these residents, they're using candles, your cold drink bottle or a beer bottle as a candle holder, which is very much dangerous, because when that candle gets heated, it might fall and then catch into a curtain or catch into anything which can burn. And then from there, you're going to have a fire incident at home. So our message is very clear. We've got a safer message, a safe way of using a candle. It's very simple. You just get yourself an old peanut butter or mayonnaise bottle, the one which breaks. You just clean it up. You fill up that bottle with sand, just 3/4 of it, and then you cut your candle into half. So your candle will have two pieces. You take one piece, you stick inside the jar. So what will happen is, when you light on your candle, as your candle burns, as soon as it reaches where the sand is, it actually extinguishes itself. And that glass jar, it actually makes your room or your shack much more brighter because of that glass jar. And also your candle will take much more longer period of time while it's burning, because the wind is not going to be blowing it. And of course, our residents who are in our formal residential areas, we are discouraging them to use teacups as candle holders, and of course beer bottles and cold drink bottles, but to use that kind of a method. And if they're using heaters, they sure that that heater is monitored. They must not take it and put it in a room whereby they want to warm the room, and there's no one who is monitoring that heater, because you might have a fire incident there. And of course, our residents who are using gas heaters, we're saying they need to make sure that the cable from the cylinder to the heater itself is okay. There is no leaks, it's not damaged, and also the regulator is in good condition. And then the heater is not being moved while it is in use, so that we can be able to prevent fire incidents which might occur. And of course, there are still residents who are still using a brazier, or what we call imbaula. Imbaula has been used for ages, but it's dangerous if our residents are taking it inside a shack or wherever they are, when they're going to sleep, because they might not be able to wake up the following day. So our message is clear, is to say they might use it, try and warm the area where they are, and then before they go to bed, they need to take it out so that tomorrow morning they can be able to wake up. And we're also saying they need to use it in a well-ventilated area, so that we avoid incidents of, carbon monoxide inhalation, which might occur while those fumes which are coming out of that imbaula, overnight while they're fast asleep.
Mr. Mulaudzi, some really, really practical tips that you've given us tonight. I'm sure they will stand many in good stead. But if you could take us through what one does in an emergency. Let's say a fire breaks out. What are the things that one needs to have handy in order to be able to control that fire?
Okay, if a resident in an informal settlement, most of them, they won't have things like fire extinguisher and other things, but when we conduct our awareness campaigns of our public education, we're saying to them, they must always have a bucket of water handy, fill it up water handy, in case, which that bucket of water they will be able to use if, when the fire is at its incipient phase, when it starts, they can be able to, kill that oxygen on that fire, and then from there, that fire will actually be extinguished. So they will be able to use water to extinguish that fire. If a resident finds himself or herself inside a room whereby there's a fire, of course they need to evacuate. How do they evacuate? And for them to evacuate, we encourage them to crawl low so that they can be able to see where they're going. They will be able to have enough oxygen to get out of the building or the house or the building. And of course, when there's a fire, there might be stuff which might be falling from the ceiling. So if they just walking like normally, the way they walk normally, those things might fall on them, and they might not be able to get out of the house. Of course, as soon as they get out, we discourage them to go back again to the house. Maybe they might want to take other items out of the house while there's a fire incident. So if all the family members are accounted for, they're outside, therefore they can be able to get a cell phone or a phone to call us as emergency services on 011-375-5911 or 10177, which is a toll-free emergency number which they can be able to get us. And of course, from our side, we can be able to respond to that incident as quickly as possible.
Mr. Mulaudzi, thank you very much for those ABCs of what to do in an emergency. That's EMS, the spokesperson, Mr. Robert Mulaudzi. 10177, that's the number to dial in an emergency, 10177. We'll be